Hi everybody, welcome to the Scott Show and This Day in History. This is where the Scott Show shows up and tells you what happened on this day in history. For those who are listening live, we had a little technical difficulty, and so we had to do this show later in the day. I already did this show, but the one that you're hearing is later in the day. So I do apologize for that to our wonderful listeners who like to listen and know and go to work and tell everybody what happened on this day in history. So, in 1560, the Treaty of Berwick, which would expel the French from Scotland, is signed by England and the Lord of the Confederation of Scotland. In 1594, Henry IV is crowned King of France. In 1617, Sweden and Russia signed the Treaty of Balsavo, ending the war and shutting Russia out of the Baltic Sea. In 1700, the island of New Britain is discovered. 1776, in the American Revolutionary War, the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge in North Carolina breaks up a Loyalist militia. In 1782, 6 years later, the House of Commons of Great Britain votes against further war in America. In 1801, pursuant to the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1801, Washington, D.C. is placed under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Congress. In 1812, poet Lord Byron gives his first address as member of the House of Lords in defense against violence against imperialism in his home county of Nottinghamshire. In 1844, the Dominican Republic gains independence from Haiti. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln makes a speech at Cooper Union in the city of New York that is largely responsible for his election to the presidency. In 1861, Russian troops fire on a crowd in Warsaw protesting against Russian rule over Poland, killing 5 protesters. In 1864, the American Civil War, the first Northern prisoners arrive at the Confederate prison in Andersonville, Georgia. In 1870, the current flag of Japan is first adopted as the national flag for Japanese merchant ships. In 1898, King George I of Greece survives an assassination attempt. 1900, the British Labour Party is founded. Also in 1900, the football club Bayern München is founded. They are often in the finals of all the European Challenge Cups. 1921, the International Working Union of Socialist Parties is founded in Vienna. 1922, the challenge to the 19th Amendment allowing women to vote is rebuffed by the Supreme Court in Laser versus Garrett. In 1933, the Reichstag fire. The Parliament building in Berlin, the Reichstag, is set on fire. A young Dutch communist claims responsibility, and the Nazis use the fire to solidify their power and eliminate the communists as political rivals. 1939. The U.S. Supreme Court rules that the sit-down strikes violate property owners' rights and therefore are illegal. 1940. Martin Kamen and Sam Rubin discover carbon-14. 1942, World War II. During the Battle of Java Sea, the Allied strike force is defeated by a Japanese task force in the Java Sea in the Dutch East Indies. 1943. The Smith Mine No. 3 in Bear Creek, Montana explodes, killing 74 men. And also in 1943, in Berlin, the Gestapo arrest 1,800 they arrest 1,800 Jewish men and with German wives, leading to the Rose Strachan protest. 1951, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, limiting presidents to only 2 terms, is ratified. 1961, the first Congress of the Spanish Trade Union Organization is inaugurated. In 1963, the Dominican Republic receives its first democratically elected president, Juan Bosch, since the end of the dictatorship led by Rafael Trujillo. 1964. The government of Italy asked for help to keep the Leaning Tower of Pisa from toppling over. 1971. Doctors in the first Dutch abortion clinic start performing aborti. They did something, 1971. Provocative abortion, it looks like. In 1976, the formerly Spanish territory of Western Sahara, under the auspices of the Palomino Front, declared independence as the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. 1991, the Gulf War, U.S. President George H.W. Bush announces that Kuwait is liberated. In 2002, Ryanair Flight 296 catches fire at London Stansted Airport. Subsequent investigations criticized Ryanair's handling of the evacuation. In 2002, there was a train burning in Kolkata, in India. A mob torches a train, killing 59 Hindu pilgrims. In 2004, now there was a Japanese doomsday cult that made an attack of Siren, or however it's said. And the leader of that, Shoko Azara, was sentenced to death this day in history, 2004. 2007, the Chinese correction. The Shanghai Stock Exchange drops 9%, the largest drop in 10 years. And in 2010, an earthquake measuring 8.8 on the Richter scale strikes parts of Chile, leaving over 500 victims and thousands injured. The quake triggered a tsunami that hit Hawaii shortly after. So that's what happened on this day in history. We got some birthdays to talk about. John Steinbeck was born this day in history. The oldest person is still with us with a Wikipedia account. Peter Twiddle, English New Zealand mathematician. Also born on this day in history, Joanna Woodward. Elizabeth Taylor was born on this day in history. Ralph Nader, Howard Hessman, Bill Hunter, Lee Atwater. Chelsea Clinton was born on this day in history. Josh Groban. Pat Richards, also born today on this day in history. And deaths that we got to report today. Louis Vuitton was born, died on this day in history. Also, Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, we lost him in 2003. Van Cliburn, we lost him in 2013. And Leonard Nimoy in 2015. It's Doctor's Day in Vietnam. It's International Polar Bear Day. It is also Independence Day in the Dominican Republic. So I want to thank you guys for checking out this day in history. We do this every single day here on thescottshow.com, so like, share, subscribe if you can. And check us out. We'll have lots more podcasts, more things coming up. And we'll see you guys here very soon on thescottshow.com.